We chase success. We seek love. We long for purpose. But without God at the center, everything we build can crumble in an instant. Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. Today, I'm going to share 6 life-changing reasons why putting God first will transform your life forever. What if I told you that every success, every dream, every challenge you face all hinge on one decision? A decision that will shape your life, your destiny, and even your eternity. That decision, to put God first. When you put God first, life's uncertainties begin to fade and clarity takes their place. Every day we face choices, some small, others life-altering, and without a clear guide, it's easy to feel lost, confused, or even paralyzed by indecision. But when we acknowledge God as our source of wisdom, everything changes. Proverbs 3:05-6 tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him and he will make your paths straight. This is a divine promise. When we surrender our plans, desires, and uncertainties to God, he provides a clear path forward. Think about a traveler lost in the wilderness. Without a compass, every direction looks the same, and every path is uncertain. But the moment that traveler finds a guiding star or a compass pointing true north, the fear of being lost begins to dissipate. God is that divine compass. He leads us when we don't know which job to take, which relationship to pursue, or how to navigate the storms of life. Too often we try to rely on our own logic, emotions, or the opinions of others, but human wisdom is limited and flawed. Only God sees the full picture, past, present, and future, and only he knows what truly lies ahead. When we put him first, we invite him to illuminate our path with his wisdom. Think about Moses leading the Israelites through the desert. They didn't have GPS maps or a guidebook, but they had God. He led them with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, showing them exactly where to go. This is how God still operates today. When we spend time in prayer, immerse ourselves in his word, and seek his will above all else, he begins to direct our paths with supernatural clarity. Have you ever faced a decision that seemed impossible to make? Maybe you were torn between 2 career opportunities, struggling with a major life transition, or trying to mend a broken relationship. The moment you place the decision before God, seeking his guidance, you likely experience peace that surpassed understanding. That's because when God leads, confusion ceases. The enemy thrives on uncertainty and doubt, using them to keep us stuck in fear, second-guessing ourselves, and ultimately missing out on the destiny God has for us. But when God is first in our lives, we silence the noise of doubt and tune in to the voice of divine direction. His guidance often comes through his word, through prayer, through the wise counsel of godly mentors, and sometimes even through circumstances that push us toward his perfect will. But we must be willing to listen, to trust, and to follow, even when the path doesn't make sense. Consider Abraham, who was called to leave everything familiar and go to a land God would show him. He didn't have a roadmap, but he had faith, and that faith led him into the promise of God. The same principle applies to us today. When we let go of our own limited understanding and trust God fully, he orchestrates our lives in ways beyond our imagination. The truth is, every great man or woman of faith in the Bible experienced moments of uncertainty, but their breakthrough came when they put God first. The moment they sought his direction above their own desires, doors opened, mountains moved, and the impossible became possible. So today, if you feel lost, if you're standing at a crossroads wondering which way to go, know this: clarity is found in seeking God first. Stop trying to figure everything out on your own. Stop overanalyzing every detail. Instead, surrender your plans to God, spend time in his presence, and trust that he will guide your steps. He has promised to make your path straight, not crooked, not confusing, but straight. When you put God first, you will no longer wander aimlessly through life, because his divine wisdom will be the lamp to your feet and the light to your path Success is something everyone desires, but not everyone defines it the same way. To some, success means wealth, power, or status. To others, it means happiness, fulfillment, or making a difference in the world. But have you ever stopped to ask, what does true success look like in God's eyes? When we put God first, success is no longer just about temporary achievements. It becomes about fulfilling His divine purpose for our lives. The world teaches us to chase after success through hard work, ambition, and relentless pursuit of our dreams. While there's nothing wrong with working hard or having goals, the danger comes when we put our desires above God's will. Many people reach the pinnacle of their careers, build fortunes, or achieve fame, only to realize they still feel empty inside. That's because success without God is like building a house on sand. When the storms of life come, it crumbles. But when God is at the center, success isn't just about personal gain. It's about being a vessel for His glory. Joshua 1:8 gives us the key to true prosperity. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Notice that success isn't tied to worldly strategies, but to our commitment to God's word. When we follow His principles, success follows us. Think about Solomon, the wealthiest and wisest king in history. When given the opportunity to ask God for anything, he didn't ask for riches, fame, or military power. He asked for wisdom to lead God's people. Because he put God first, everything else was added to him. Jesus reaffirmed this truth in Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Too often we flip the order. We seek all these things first, hoping that success will bring us closer to God. But the secret is in the seeking. When we chase God first, blessings, provision, and opportunities follow. The reason is simple. God knows what we need before we even ask. Matthew 6:8. He knows which career path is best for us, which relationships will build us up, and what doors need to open in our lives. When we put Him first, He aligns our desires with His will, ensuring that the success we achieve is not only meaningful, but eternal. The Bible is filled with stories of those who either honored God in their success or fell because they pursued success apart from Him. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned, yet he never stopped trusting God. Because of his faithfulness, God elevated him from the prison to the palace, making him second in command over all of Egypt. Joseph's success wasn't about power. It was about fulfilling God's plan to save an entire nation. On the other hand, consider King Saul, chosen by God, yet ultimately rejected because he valued his own status above obedience to God. His success was short-lived because it wasn't rooted in surrender to God's authority. The lesson is clear. When we pursue success outside of God, it leads to destruction. But when we put Him first, He establishes us in ways we could never achieve on our own. Today, many people compromise their values, neglect their families, and sacrifice their integrity in the name of success, only to realize too late that they were chasing the wrong thing. But when we put God first, He redefines success for us. He gives us peace that money can't buy, relationships that thrive in love, and work that has lasting purpose. He positions us for opportunities that no human connection could orchestrate. The greatest success isn't measured by titles, bank accounts, or achievements. It's measured by a life that honors God. So if you truly want to be successful, start by surrendering your plans to God. Let Him lead you. Let Him shape your ambitions. Commit your work to Him, and He will establish your steps. Proverbs 16:03. Because when you put God first, success isn't just possible. Life is full of challenges, pain, loss, disappointment, and struggles that seem unbearable. But when we put God first, we find a strength that carries us through even the darkest storms. Trials are inevitable. They come to the rich and poor, the powerful and weak, the believer and the unbeliever alike. The difference is not in the presence of hardship, but in the foundation we stand on when the storms hit. Jesus said in John 16:33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Notice he didn't say, "You might have trouble," or "If you believe in me, you'll never suffer." No, he confirmed that difficulties will come, but he also promised victory for those who put their trust in him. When God is first in our lives, we don't rely on our own limited strength. Instead, we draw from his infinite power. Isaiah 41:10 reassures us, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This is the supernatural strength that sustains us when we feel like giving up. The power that enables us to keep moving forward even when everything around us is falling apart. Think about the story of Job, a man who lost everything, his wealth, his health, his family, and even the support of his friends. Yet, in the depths of his suffering, Job never turned away from God. His faith was tested, but because he put God first, he found strength beyond human understanding. In the end, God restored him, blessing him even more than before. Job's story teaches us that trials are not the end of our story. They are often the preparation for something greater. When we prioritize God in the midst of hardship, we begin to see our struggles differently. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we start asking, "God, what are you teaching me through this?" This shift in perspective is what allows us to endure suffering with faith rather than fear. Consider Paul, who endured shipwrecks, imprisonment, beatings, and persecution. Yet he boldly declared in Philippians 4:13, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Paul's ability to withstand trials didn't come from his own determination. It came from his unwavering reliance on God. He understood that true strength doesn't come from physical endurance or mental toughness. It comes from complete dependence on God. That's why Paul could also say in Corinthians 12:9, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." When we put God first, we invite his grace into our weaknesses, and his power sustains us. Trials, no matter how painful, become opportunities for God to reveal his faithfulness. When we feel like we can't take another step, he carries us. When we feel like we have no answers, he provides wisdom. When we feel like all hope is lost, he reminds us that our story isn't over yet. Look at the life of Jesus himself. He faced betrayal, rejection, torture, and crucifixion. Yet he never wavered because his focus was on fulfilling God's plan. And because of his victory over sin and death, we too can walk through our own trials, knowing that suffering is not the final chapter. God promises in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Even in the moments we don't understand, when life seems unfair or when we feel abandoned, we can trust that God is still working behind the scenes. Putting God first doesn't mean we won't face hardships. It means we won't face them alone. It means we will have an anchor in the storm, a peace that surpasses understanding, and a strength that is not our own. It means that even when the world tries to break us, we will stand firm because our foundation is unshakable. So when trials come, and they will, don't let fear take over. Don't let despair control you. Instead, turn to God first. Pray, trust, hold on to his promises, and watch as he turns your pain into purpose, your sorrow into strength, and your trials into a testimony that will inspire others to do the same. Because when God is first, no storm can destroy you, no hardship can define you, and no trial can defeat you. Relationships are the foundation of life, whether it's with our spouse, children, family, friends, or even co-workers. But relationships without God can often be fragile, filled with misunderstandings, selfishness, and pain. When we put God first, however, He transforms the way we love, communicate, and connect with others. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:19, we love because He first loved us. This verse reveals a powerful truth. Real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that brings healing, the kind that creates unbreakable bonds, starts with God. Without Him, our love is conditional based on how others treat us, how we feel in the moment, or what we can gain. But with God at the center, our love becomes selfless, patient, and rooted in something far greater than human emotion. It becomes rooted in His divine nature. Think about a marriage where both husband and wife are seeking God first. Instead of looking to each other for ultimate fulfillment, they look to God, and in doing so, they grow closer to each other. When conflicts arise, and they will, they don't allow pride or anger to destroy their bond. Instead, they seek God's wisdom, practice forgiveness, and choose love over ego. Love. You see, Ephesians 4:2-3 reminds us, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. When God is first in a relationship, humility replaces pride, peace replaces conflict, and unity replaces division. But what about friendships? In a world where friendships are often built on convenience, gossip, or selfish interest, putting God first reshapes the way we choose and maintain our friendships. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. When we surround ourselves with friends who also seek God first, we are encouraged, strengthened, and held accountable in our faith. Godly friendships are not about popularity or social status. They are about lifting each other up, speaking truth in love, and growing together in faith. When God is first, our friendships become sources of encouragement rather than competition, places of trust rather than betrayal. And what about family? Families are often the greatest source of love, but they can also be the greatest source of pain. Sibling rivalries, generational wounds, broken relationships, these are all too common. Yet, when a family puts God first, healing begins. Parents who prioritize God teach their children not just with words, but by example. They create a home filled with prayer, forgiveness, and wisdom. Deuteronomy 6:6-7 commands us, these commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. When children grow up seeing their parents honor God, they learn that love is not just a feeling, but a choice, a commitment, a reflection of God's own love for us. Even in difficult family dynamics, putting God first brings restoration. Consider Joseph, who was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and left for dead. Instead of seeking revenge, he forgave them because he saw God's greater plan at work. Genesis 50:20 records his powerful words, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. That is the power of putting God first. It turns pain into purpose, brokenness into healing, and separation. Even our relationships with coworkers, neighbors, and strangers change when God is first. Instead of seeing people through the lens of judgment, annoyance, or indifference, we begin to see them through the eyes of Christ. We extend grace where others would condemn. We offer kindness where others would ignore. We love without expecting anything in return because we understand that our ultimate reward comes from God, not people. Jesus himself taught us that the greatest commandments are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself, Matthew 22:37-39. These two commands are inseparable because when we truly love God first, loving others becomes a natural overflow of that love. So if your relationships feel strained, if you're struggling to connect with your spouse, your children, your friends, or your family, ask yourself, is God truly first in this relationship? Because when He is, everything changes. Love becomes sacrificial. Forgiveness becomes easier. Conflicts become opportunities for growth. And relationships that once seemed broken beyond repair become testimonies of His grace. When God is first, our relationships don't just survive, they thrive, they heal, and they reflect His perfect love to the world. When we put God first, our entire perspective on life shifts. We no longer live just for the here and now, for temporary pleasures, or for worldly success, but for something far greater, eternity. The world teaches us to focus on what we can see, touch, and achieve in this life. It tells us that wealth, fame, and personal fulfillment are the highest goals. But when we truly seek God first, we realize that life is not just about the few short years we spend on this earth. It is about preparing for eternity with Him. Jesus asked a powerful question in Mark 8:36. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? This is a wake-up call to all of us who get caught up in chasing material things, status, or even personal happiness at the expense of our relationship with God. Everything in this world is temporary, our possessions, our careers, even our bodies, but our souls are eternal. When God is first in our lives, we stop worrying so much about things that won't last, and we start investing in what truly matters: our faith, our character, our obedience to God, and our impact on others. This eternal perspective changes how we live each day. We no longer see suffering as meaningless because we know that our trials are shaping us for something greater. 2 Corinthians 4:17 reminds us, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. The pain, struggles, and disappointments of this life are not the end of the story. They are just part of a journey that is leading us to something far greater. When we put God first, we begin to understand that our suffering has purpose, our challenges are temporary, and our hope is in something far greater than this world can offer. This eternal mindset also changes our priorities. Instead of living for ourselves, we live for God's glory. Instead of holding grudges, we forgive, knowing that eternity is too important to waste on bitterness. Instead of chasing after wealth, we use what we have to bless others, knowing that true treasure is stored up in heaven, not in bank accounts. Jesus said in Matthew 6:19-20, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. This doesn't mean we shouldn't work hard or enjoy life's blessings, but it does mean that our ultimate focus should be on what has lasting value. People who put God first are not easily shaken by the ups and downs of life. They don't panic when the stock market crashes, when health fails, or when plans don't work out, because their hope is not in this world, but in God's eternal promises. They don't waste their time chasing after things that won't matter in eternity. Instead, they spend their lives loving God, serving others, and fulfilling the purpose He has given them. Think about the early disciples. Many of them faced persecution, imprisonment, and even death. Yet they never wavered because they knew their true reward was not on this earth but in heaven. Paul declared in Philippians 1:21, for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. This is the mindset of someone who truly puts God first. Whether in life or in death, everything is for God's glory. This perspective also changes how we see others. We stop viewing people just in terms of their worldly status, background, or mistakes, and instead we see them as souls who are either moving toward God or away from Him. We begin to feel the urgency of sharing the gospel because we understand that eternity is real and every person's soul is precious to God. When we put God first, we don't just live for temporary pleasures. We live with a mission, knowing that every act of love, every moment of faithfulness, and every sacrifice for God's kingdom will be rewarded in eternity. So the question we must ask ourselves is this: are we living with eternity in mind, or are we too distracted by the temporary things of this world? Because when we put God first, everything changes. Our worries shrink, our purpose becomes clear, and our hearts are set on something that will never fade, never disappoint, and never end. We begin to live not just for today, but for forever. The world promises peace in many forms through success, wealth, relationships, entertainment, or even self-help philosophies. But no matter how much we chase after these things, they never bring lasting fulfillment. True peace isn't found in a perfect life, a high-paying job, or a stress-free environment. It is only found in God. When we put Him first, we experience a peace that surpasses all understanding, a fulfillment that cannot be shaken by circumstances. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." This means the peace that comes from God is different from what the world offers. It's not dependent on what's happening around us, but on who is living within us. The world's peace is temporary. It lasts only as long as things are going well. The moment trouble comes, anxiety and fear take over. But the peace that comes from God is unshakable. It's the kind of peace that allowed Jesus to sleep in a storm while his disciples panicked. Mark 4:38. It's the peace that sustained Paul and Silas as they worshiped in prison. Acts 16:25. It's the peace that kept Daniel fearless in the lion's den. Daniel 6:22. When we put God first, we are no longer at the mercy of life's uncertainty. This peace isn't just about feeling calm. It's about being deeply fulfilled. Many people spend their entire lives searching for something to fill the emptiness inside them. They try to find it in relationships, achievements, material possessions, or even distractions like social media and entertainment, yet they always come up short. That's because we were created for something greater. Our souls long for a connection with God. Ecclesiastes 3:11 tells us that God has set eternity in the human heart. This means that nothing in this world can truly satisfy us because our hearts were designed for a relationship with our Creator. When we put God first, He fills the void that nothing else can. We no longer live in constant dissatisfaction, chasing after the next big thing to make us happy. Instead, we find joy in His presence, knowing that we are fully loved, fully known, and fully secure in Him. Putting God first also brings peace in our decision-making. So many people live with stress, worry, and regret because they are constantly trying to figure everything out on their own. They make decisions based on what seems right in the moment, only to realize later that they've made a mistake. But Proverbs 3:5-6 gives us the answer. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. When God is first, we don't have to carry the weight of every decision alone. He guides us, leads us, and gives us wisdom beyond our own understanding. Even in the face of life's greatest challenges, those who put God first have a peace that confounds the world. They face sickness with faith, trials with confidence, and even death with hope because they know their lives are in God's hand. Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This peace is not just for a select few. It is available to everyone who seeks God first. So the question is, are we truly putting God first, or are we still searching for peace in things that will never satisfy? Because when we put Him first, we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to strive to prove ourselves. And we don't have to chase after things that leave us empty. Instead, we live in the fullness of his love, the security of his promises, and the unshakable peace that only he can give. True fulfillment is not found in what we have, but in who we belong to. And when God is first in our lives, we finally experience the peace and purpose we were created for.